Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to continue adding our enemy character into our game. This time we're going to add the animation that we've been working on so that our spider is walking across the ground instead of gliding across the ground. If you've missed the previous videos, you can still catch them on Paul Fritz Animation at my YouTube channel. Please subscribe so you can get any of the updates as they come out, since I am still in the process of making these videos. All right, so let's go ahead and get started now. So here we are with our scene, and again, let's just do a real quick recap. Our spiders, they slide towards us, and that's what we want to get rid of. We want to make it so that they start actually walking. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and here in our content folder, we're going to find our characters, and that's the wrong one. Did I put them in? Blueprints, enemy, spider, there we go. And then inside the blueprints, enemy, spider, we're going to go ahead and create under the spider animation folder. I'm going to right click, we're going to go to blueprints, and let's see here. Oh, sorry, under animation. There we go. Animation, animation blueprint. We're going to go ahead and create a new animation blueprint. Our target skeleton are going to be our spider skeleton right here. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And we're going to go ahead and name this. I'm going to call it Anim BP so that we know it's an animation blueprint. And I'm going to call this one my red spider in case I decide to come back and make other spiders as well. All right, so there we go. We've got that. We're going to go ahead and double click and open it. And here we have our output pose. So what we need to do is create a new state machine. So let's go ahead and right click right in here and type in state machine, and we're going to add a new state machine right there. Okay, and we're going to connect this up and go out to our output result right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and double click on our state machine, and right now all we have is that empty entry level right here. So let's go ahead and go over to our asset browser over here on the right hand side. And all of those animations that we cut out in the previous video are right in here. The one we want is, actually we want two. We want our idle animation. So whichever idle you decided you wanted to go with. For the spider, I went with idle 1. I kind of like the way that worked. That's here. Come on. There we go. All right. And then the other one we want, let me give myself a little bit of room, is we want the walk animation, and we only have the one animation for that. Wow, okay. Jump back here. Sorry about that, just trying to move it a little closer. Don't know what's giving me so much trouble today. All right, so now we're gonna go from our entry, so entry into the idle. Okay, so just draw that one arrow like that, so you just click on it and drag. And then on the outer edge here, you click and drag, and we're gonna go into our walk animation, and then back from our walk animation to the idle animation. All right, so now we've got it started, but we're going to need to actually create a function in order to be able to help us set up our requirements to enter into the walk animation, and then the requirements to go back into the idle animation. So what we're going to do is first we're going to go ahead and create a couple variables. So let's, well, actually, yeah, we'll go ahead and create two variables right now. We'll come back to the dead one when we need it. But the first one, let's go ahead and just, since it pops up as a Boolean, we're just going to go ahead and use that. We're going to type in dead. All right, and then since this is a Boolean, we're just going to go ahead and leave that alone. We can compile it, and it'll take it. Okay, now it's giving me an error when I compile it because we don't actually have any information here for it to enter into our state machine. All right, so the next variable we want to do is create a variable for movement speed. Okay, So create another variable down here. This one is going to be a float. So first, let's go ahead and call it movement speed. Okay, so movement speed. And then over here, we want to change this to a float. Okay. All right, and we can go ahead and compile that too. It's going to still give me that error. Now everything is all set up. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create a function. And right in here, we're going to create a function called calculate movement speed. So we're going to hit the plus button, and we're going to call this calculate movement speed. Okay. All right, and it opened us up into our function here. And what we need to do before we actually do this is we need to create a way of finding our spider. So we're going to need an additional variable, but we're not going to do it down here in the variables. We're actually going to create it here in our event graph. So we're going to go ahead and set up so that we have the calculation for our dead, and we're also going to set up the variable for our movement. So, or the function for our variable for our spider. There we go. Okay, so right here, we are going to use this try to get owner. We're going to grab that. We're going to move it up here. We'll come back to the event blueprint update animation in a minute. But what we want to do is we're going to set it up so that the first thing we do as soon as the event begins to play is we go out and we find our spider. So right here we're going to right click, and you're going to type in event blueprint. And it helps to spell blueprint right. All right, we'll just stop right there. So event blueprint begin play. We want this one right here. Event blueprint begin play. Okay. And now what we want to do is we want to cast this to our spider. So we're going to go ahead and say cast and to BP. And it should pop up with some of our choices down here. And mine is my red spider. So I want to cast this to my red spider, not the class, the spider itself. Okay. And now I'm going to take this, try to get owner, pawn owner, and I'm just going to go ahead and check that, connect that right in there. And now right down here, what we want to do is we want to right click, and we're going to promote this to a variable. Okay. So right down here on this little blue button, before it pops into full like this, you're going to right click on it. You're going to promote it to variable. And look right here, we got as BP red spider. And if you take a look down here, here is our variable for as BP red spider. Now we could rename this if we wanted to, but I think this is fairly clear. This is our variable for our red spider. We could take out the as, but I'm not going to do any extra typing right now. I think it's going to be okay. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and set up our spider here. So let's go ahead and come out of here. We're going to pull out. We want to make sure first that this is the actual spider. So we're going to do an is valid. Okay, so pull up is valid. And we're going to pull out from down here. We're going to just drag it up here. We're going to get that variable for our spider. I'm going to plug that in there. Okay. Now, what we need to do is stop right here as we got started. Since we've already got our spider variable written now what we need to do is we need to go back into this function that we were working on, which is calculate our movement speed, because we need that piece right here. So let's go ahead and set that up first. What we're going to do is we're going to bring our, come on, go away, pull up our spider. Again, we're going to do a get. We're going to drag out from here. And I think we can do it from here. Let's see, get velocity. Yes, we can. So we're going to get velocity for our spider. And then we want to know basically the vector. So we want to convert this into a vector that we can use. So let's go ahead and get vector length. Let's see, it's not popping up yet. Okay, so right here, vector length. Now we do need to return this. So let's go ahead and get a return node. Just right click in here, type in return, because we're going to need to end up using this to calculate, to turn our animation on based off of this. So we're going to connect this up, and we need to return this information right here. Okay, and this is going to be a pure but not a const. Okay, a pure but not a const function. So click right here on pure, leave that one alone. We don't want to change this to a const. And that sets up our function here. Again, we're still going to get a little error here because we still have our state machine waiting for us to give it some information. All right, so now we've got our calculate movement speed. Let's jump back into our event graph. Okay, so just this little tab right up here. Jump back to our event graph. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is once we've identified that this is valid, we need to actually set our variable. Okay, so we're going to set our movement speed, and I don't know why I drug it out of there. Let's go ahead and pull movement speed out here, our variable. This is going to be set. Connect that in. Now we're going to pull this function out that we just created. I'm going to plug this in so we can set our movement speed. And we're going to go ahead and pull this out. We're going to get our spider again. And not sure if this is going to work for us yet. Let's see here. Wait, it did, so let's go ahead and get dead. Okay, since we've already created the variable. All right, and then we're also going to want to set that variable as well. Connect this in. Set this up there. There we go. Good enough. Okay. Now, we're going to come back to this blueprint a little bit later as we get ready to start damaging our player. But first, we're just concentrating on getting everything set up for our spider to be able to move. Let's go ahead and compile this. Go back into our state machine now that we've got our function all set up. And what we want to do is this very top circle right here, this one that's going to transition us into the walk animation. We're going to double click on that. And see, it says it can't enter that transition. It's because we haven't set it up. So what we want to do is we want to pull out our variable. Since we've set our movement speed, we're going to go ahead and get it right here, get movement speed. And now what we want is if our movement speed is greater than 0, so we want to use a greater than float. Okay, so float greater than float. And we're going to go ahead and connect that in there. So now if our movement speed is greater than 0, we can enter into this. I'm going to go ahead and compile this one. Okay, we still have that warning because we got to do the same thing for the other one. So we've got this part set up. So now let's go ahead and go back into our state machine and let's do the transition out. Okay, and the transition out is going to be a similar process, except this time we want to pull out our movement speed. We're going to get it, and we're going to use the equal sign. Okay, because if it's equal to 0, then we can go into our idle. So obviously our spider is not moving. So we're going to go ahead and use the equal sign. There we go, equal float. And we're going to go ahead and just hook these up just like that. I'm going to compile it. So now all of our little errors should be gone. And go ahead and do a save all real quick. Okay. So now if we go back out to our state machine, we have our walk animation completed. Okay. That looks pretty decent. Now, we've left this as named as new state machine. Let's go ahead and and give this a name real quick. Okay, and we're going to just call this, so let's go ahead and call it locomotion. That's usually what it's called. Sometimes it confuses me when it's called locomotion. I don't know why. But I'm going to go ahead and just call it locomotion for right now. I'm going to compile it again and save it. And let's go back to the blueprint for our spider. So if you don't have that open, what we want is the actual spider blueprint that we created earlier on, right here, enemy blueprints. Our BP, mine's BP red spider. That's the one we want. And I've got that opened up. Whoa, don't know what I'm doing there. And let's go ahead and click on the mesh for our character. So right up here on the left hand side, we're going to click on mesh. And we want to use the animation blueprint. And for the animation class, we need to find our anim BP and whatever you named yours. Mine's red spider. Okay. And for whatever reason, my animation is all kind of messed up. Let's see if we can fix that. Take my spider 90 degrees. Okay. Let's see if that fixed it. Alright, so now I've got my idle. See, he's clearly moving. So let's go ahead and go back into our scene here. Let me save it. And let's see if this works. Hopefully it didn't break anything. Alright, so now let me go ahead and hit stop. Hit play again and try to run away as best I can. See if they're walking. The animation looks a little slow for how fast they're moving. But let's go ahead and get that fixed real quick. Alright. So let's go back into our animation. And this one is actually going to be a couple things we need to double check first before we go there. Let's go back into here. And for our walk animation, let's just click on this, make sure that the animation is looped. Okay. And then, okay, so it should be looped. And then also our animation for our idle should also be looped as well. Okay. And then let's go ahead, and I think what we want to do is we want to go into and modify our actual walk animation. All right, and so what we want to do is go here and go to our spider again, into our spider animations, and right here my walk animation for my spider. Okay, it's at a rate scale of 1. And because I've already kind of played around with this, and you might need to play around with numbers in yours as well, but for mine, previously it was 2. So I'm going to double the speed of my spider walk animation. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back into my animation here. And I'm going to run away and... Oops, that's right. Forgot we didn't extend it that far yet. See what that looks like. It's not quite, it's not bad, but it's not quite where I want it to be. Let's go ahead and try bumping that up just a little bit more maybe. Alright, so back into the spider walk animation, and let's make this maybe 2.5, that might be too much. But again, this is something you're going to have to play around with a little bit and see how it works for yours. Okay, hit play again. Run away from him. I think that looks a little bit better. All right, I think 2.5 for this one worked out okay this time. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. Just make sure you save everything. All right, so we got our animation applied. That's it for this video. So we're going to go ahead and stop here. We have a lot more of animation stuff to do. We need to get our attack and our die in. But we're going to take on those in the next video. Thanks again for checking in with me and catching up on these. Let me go ahead and find this right here. Again, if you want to see the previous videos, please go ahead and jump into my YouTube channel and check in, see what else there's out there. And again, thanks. If you like this video, please like it. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.